Welcome into the betPARX post-game show. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn, presented by Pond Lehocky. And to every Philadelphia Eagles fan, I'd like to first apologize to you for having to watch that absolute dreck, that embarrassing performance. That performance right there by the Philadelphia Eagles from start to finish was one of a team that was poorly coached and not prepared to play that football game. We all sat here during the pregame show, and we all picked the Eagles to win that game. We based a lot of that on Jalen Hurts still having Saquon Barkley, still having Dallas Goedert, still having what we thought was a pretty damn good offensive line that obviously went through more injuries in this game as well. And we also said that because Jalen Carter was coming off his best game as a professional football player. And all that went out the window to the tune of 33-16 in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And was that Tom Brady playing in the game today as Baker Mayfield? What was going on there? Was that Joe Montana playing in the game? Picking apart this Eagles defense today was Baker Mayfield. And Seth, I look at this, and the word that comes to mind is ill-prepared and embarrassed. The two words that come to mind. When you try to break down what we just saw, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, it's a total team effort is the best way to look at it. You know, the coaches didn't have the players prepared. The players weren't prepared to play, nor did they bring the energy to the field today. And listen, everyone is going to talk about the heat. And, you know, granted, Tampa Bay gets to live in it, practice in it, the whole deal. But guess what? They had to go out and play too, you know, and the Eagles just simply did not show up today. I hate a game like this, guys, for Jalen Hurts, because this just gives more fuel to the fire, you know, to his detractors, that he's not the guy, that he can't get it done, that 22 was an anomaly. You know, all of those things are what you're going to hear. And, you know, get ready, because this week is going to be straight fire all week long. The coaches are going to get it. Jalen Hurts, more than anybody else, is going to get it. The players are going to get it. And to be quite frank with you, they all deserve it. They deserve all the critique, all the criticism, all the hate that's going to come this way this entire week for the next 2 weeks, because they got, you know, a week off. And we'll make the excuse that, hey, you know, Lane Johnson was missing, A.J. Brown was missing, Devontae Smith was missing. Sure, you were missing some pieces, but Tampa Bay was missing some pieces too. And they went out there and they lit your ass up like the 4th of July from beginning to end. And the Eagles had no answer for it whatsoever.
Gunner,
I said on the pregame show that it was imperative the Eagles play from the front and not from behind, because it would take them out of their game plan completely. And that's exactly playing into Todd Bowles' hands. When his team has the lead, what does he do? He unleashes the hounds, and they come from all different angles. It doesn't make a difference how many pieces his defense is missing. Somebody else steps up for him always and makes a play somehow, some way. And they let Tampa Bay walk down the field in the first 2 possessions and had 159 yards of offense after the first 2 possessions, and it was all downhill from there. And, of course, Jalen has to come out throwing the football more when they had the ball to try to play catch-up, and Todd Bowles is smart enough to know this, and, of course, it cost the Eagles in a lot of ways. Seth, I want to ask you something, because you played this game for 13 years, and you played in towns like Denver where the Air is thinner. You played in Green Bay. When you have to go down to an environment like that where the heat is like 95 degrees but the heat index is 105, how much in a lot of ways does that affect you psychologically? And a good team, how long should it take them to adjust to heat like that if you're a good team?
Well, listen, they got there yesterday. It was probably raining a little bit. They went out for warm-ups, so they knew what the environment was going to be like. When you're playing a game like this, it's all about your mental focus. It's all about, you know, what you're telling yourself. Yeah, it's going to be hot, but guess what? It's hot for them too. So I've got to adjust my mentality that I'm going to go out here and do what I have to do. And if I got to get a break in today's game, that's the way it is. You know, in our day, you know, we played the entire game under those circumstances. Well, you have the ability to rotate guys in and out. They weren't mentally prepared for the heat in this situation today. And as the game went on, it mentally wore them down. You know, I always talk about being in shape, and I put something up on my Twitter feed this week about, you know, in today's NFL, sports science doesn't allow teams to condition the way that they used to condition in my day. we conditioned almost after every single practice, so that when you got in the game, you weren't gassed in that situation. They don't really condition that way now, and a lot of people will say, some people will refute it, but listen, I interned for 5 weeks, with the Buffalo Bills, and I saw that they never conditioned during training camp. So I know it to be a fact that and it's one thing, you can go get on the treadmill, you can jog, you can go and get on a bike, and you can get some cardio in that way. But there's nothing like true conditioning where you're running hundreds or 50s or gassers or 20s just for, takeoffs. So your mentality has to be the right way. But at the same time, there's an old saying that, fatigue makes cowards out of us all. And what I saw was a lot of cowardice football being played out on the football field today. Guys were making business decisions. You saw the Raiders coach say last week, there were guys out there making business decisions. Well, as a staff, we're going to make some business decisions. I would submit to you that this staff needs to make some business decisions as far as the players and the players that were given the effort and the guys that weren't. If you're not going to give the effort, then get your ass off the field. If you're not going to give the effort, then guess what? Opportunity presents itself for other guys when other guys don't step up and they don't do their jobs. So give those other guys a chance to get in the football game and see what they bring to the table. Maybe that's enough to light a fire under the guys that are in the game that should be performing because they've won the job as starters. So I don't want to hear the excuse about the heat, trying to figure out how you were going to deal with it, because you want to know something? The 48 guys on the other side that were active today, they showed up and they kicked your ass all up and down that field today, plain and simple. They weren't worrying about the heat. They were worrying about kicking your ass, okay, while you were worrying about the heat. And in a lot of ways, that's the difference in today's game.
Yeah, and look at how many guys for the Eagles dropped out of the game because of heat exhaustion, cramps, things of that nature as well. You would think that the training staff could have prepared them better. Back in the day, it was always the salt tablets, to avoid cramping and stuff like that. I don't know what modern technology is right now in terms of just the Gatorades and things like that, but your training staff has to do a better job of also being able to keep your guys in the game physically when you're producing that much sweat and your body's emitting that much water in a short amount of time.
I would agree with a lot of this if we were talking about more of the stuff that happened in the second half or even in the second quarter. But in the first quarter, what was the remedy for sucking at football? Because that's what we saw in that first quarter. And that's what was so infuriating to me. You saw guys that were in position to make a play and miss tackles. And how many did we talk about in that first quarter? We talked about 7, 8, 10 in the first quarter. Yeah. 13, 14 maybe the rest of the way, if not 15 the rest of the way. If it went on and that was a problem, then I'd understand. But the fact that they came out of the gate, Seth, ill-prepared to play forget about ill-prepared, not prepared to play this game. Look, Nick Sirianni was already sitting on a boiling hot seat going into the offseason. The Eagles made the decision to hold on to him. And I know this is what a lot of people are talking about already, and I see in the chat, and we're going to be talking to Bailey a little bit later in the show about all the things that you guys are talking about. But I know Nick Sirianni, we've talked about the dwindling amount of responsibility that he's had, and maybe the piece of the pie is the smallest he's ever had in his head coaching tenure in Philadelphia. But how hot is that seat right now for Nick Sirianni after the way the Eagles started this football game and were not able to finish this football game?
Listen, I'm going to continue to say that I don't think Nick Sirianni's seat is hot during the season. Now, if they lose the next 4 games, that may change a little bit, But at the end of the day, to your point, if you're not calling offensive plays like you have in the past, then part of your job is how you motivate your players. Do your players hear your voice? Can you motivate your players from week to week? Because my conversation would have been to my guys is, hey, listen, last week should have been the launching point. We got to go out here, and the level of play has to be commensurate to what we put out last week. Anything less is unacceptable. I was telling you guys about, a story when I played, in Denver during the game. I can remember, my first couple of weeks in Denver, Mike Shanahan was like Cool Hand Luke. He never yelled. He never argued. He never admonished players. And I pulled one of the guys aside and said, hey, man, what's up with Mike? Is he always so calm, cool, and collected? He's like, hey, man, listen, this is the standard here. You know, there's a certain level of play that's expected by this coaching staff. So nobody's going to yell at you. Nobody's going to admonish you. If you want to be here, you live up to the standard. If you don't live up to the standard, they will get your ass out of here real quick and bring somebody else in who will live up to the standard. So that has to be the calling card for this football team and how Nick Sirianni handles this team. You know, the year before last when the special teams weren't playing well, okay, I said it then, I'll say it again. One of the greatest motivators that you'll ever have is for a player to be cut from the team, because then that opens everybody else's eyes to the fact that, listen, if we're not living up to the level of play that we should be putting out, if we're not doing our job, they're going to get us up out of here. But when players have this comfortability that their position is cemented, that they're going to be on the roster and they're not performing, if they're not self-motivated, then how do you get them motivated? Something has to be done, because you can't play great one week and not show up the next week. You can't play great one play and not play great the next play. Now, the missed tackles. I've always said it. Some of you guys have heard me say it before. I'll say it again. Tackling is nothing but an attitude. The guy has the football. He wants to stay up. I want him down. My will has to be greater to put him down than his will to stay up. So when guys miss tackles, that tells me that that guy wanted to stay up worse than you wanted to put him down. Plain and simple. There's no other excuse for that. None whatsoever. He's got the ball. As a defender, it's your job to put him down on the ground. And it works the same way on the offensive side of the ball. If I got a one-on-one, some guys are untackleable. You know, you understand what I'm saying, D-Gun? Some guys just refuse to go down. That's the way this game has to be played. You have to refuse to be put down, and when the offender has the ball, you have to put him down. He's not going to go down just because you want him to go down. He's going to go down because you physically put his ass on the ground. Plain and simple.
I think in today's game, and I've said this often, I think it's abysmal how tackling is taught. If you look at a lot of guys on defense who tackle, how do you tackle a guy, especially a bigger man, up high on the shoulder pads? It's almost impossible in today's game. Even though the target zone has been narrowed in today's National Football League, there's still enough of a strike zone where you should be able to get leverage to either slow them up until somebody comes to help you, or you should be able to bring them down. And I see, especially on this Eagles team, I see too many guys trying to clutch and grab, arm tackle, or try to grab a bigger man, especially with momentum, trying to tackle up high. It doesn't happen today. The laws of averages don't happen that way. And I don't understand who teaches these guys this stuff. The Eagles are one of the biggest culprits of it, but you see it across the National Football League. And the teaching is, first of all, pass coverage teaching is atrocious. And more importantly, tackling is even worse than pass coverage technique nowadays.
Well, if you go to a practice, and I got video on my phone because I laugh every time I look at it. The Eagles have got this big orange donut that they roll across the ground. And the guys run as fast as they can, and they dive, and they tackle the donut. Well, when you see most of our guys tackling, that's the way they tackle. They dive at the legs of the opponent, okay? And they try to tackle the legs from like 3 yards away. Well, guess what? That guy sees you coming. You're either going to get a stiff arm, he's going to get down and give you the shoulder, or he's just going to run through the tackle. I used to teach my little kids when I was coaching, Pee Wee football. I'm like, listen, if you can get close enough to put your hand on him, then take the extra step and put your body on him. Don't just reach for him, because he's not going to go down because you want to, especially if he's a big kid up top and you're trying to tackle him up top.
Right.
That's not going to work, okay? Even if you're going to tackle the legs, if he sees you going for the legs, he's going to do something to keep you away from the legs. So you have to go to the body and put your body on him. Now, I'm not saying you can't tackle the legs, but you got to get close enough to put your weight on the legs so that you can wrap him up. But just diving at the feet and hoping that the guy's going to go down because you got a piece of his leg or a piece of his foot, that doesn't work. And that's the way they're being taught to tackle. So what you're seeing, again, what you see on the field is either being taught or it's being tolerated, okay? So when you see bad tackling, that to me is being taught. And when it's being taught, that means it's going to be tolerated on the field. So that's why we see the product that we see. They don't tackle because they don't tackle well in practice. The technique to tackle stinks. I haven't seen a guy roly-poly running the football looking like a big donut ever in all my days of watching football. But why in the world are you going to roll a donut out there and have a guy run and go dive and tackle? Even when they tackle the vertical dummies, it's the same thing. They get 3 yards away and they dive. No, run and put your body on the guy and wrap your arms around him. Even if you don't get him down, hold on. The rest of the cavalry is coming. But to just dive at him and miss and then get up and do the hand clap, I hate that. That is the worst thing in the world. Guy get beat, oh, man. No, we've seen way too much of that today, and we see way too much of it very often. And it's not just, to your point, D-Gun, it's just not the Eagles. It's prevalent across the NFL.
Yes.
The better defenses, they tackle aggressively with their body on the man. The guys that don't attack, the bad tackling teams, they do everything that I just talked about previously.
Houston, Baltimore, very good tackling teams. The rest of the league, it's like that commercial. It's not just a job, it's an adventure.
Well, there was one particular missed tackle that was the most frustrating to me, and that was the Reed Blankenship, essentially kill shot that he had, if you could even say that in today's NFL, on Baker Mayfield at the start of the second quarter. You're already down 14-0. You and I, Seth, looked at each other, laughed at this moment because form tackle-wise, if it's a regular runner, he did a good job trying to wrap up the legs, bring him down. But it's Baker Mayfield on a read option keeper, breaks to his right at the 1 yard line, and Reed Blankenship, who I thought up until this moment in the game wanted to tackle, wanted to hit somebody, went at Baker Mayfield's ankles at the 1 yard line, to which he just leaned forward and scored the touchdown. I know that they're always coached, especially against a quarterback, to not hit him up high, but you got to understand where you are in the football field at that time. And I know you're already down 14-0, but you have a chance to knock him back and prevent him on fourth down from getting that touchdown and having a huge swing in the game early. Why do you think he went for the ankles on that shot?
Because most of the time, that's the way they tackle. And it's a situational unawareness in the moment. If I grab him by his legs, all he's got to do is fall forward and fall in the end zone. So that's a situation where I have to strike him body on body, form tackle him, and hold on, even if I got to grab him and fall backwards away from the end zone and hope that the rest of the guys come. But the one thing you can't do is you can't go at the legs. If you go at his legs, even if you wrap him up, he's a half a yard away from the end zone. All he's going to do is just lunge for the end zone. Situational unawareness again.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a little bit more of a closer look at Vic Fangio, what his scheme was, whatever it might have been going into this game that allowed Baker Mayfield to have close to a career day against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the betPARX post-game show from Parx Casino, presented by Pond Lehocky. Don't forget about the over 3,200 slot machines and 124 live table games here at Parx Casino. Back in a few.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This next segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you from Parx Casino. Brought to you by Lehocky. Vic Fangio going into this game was supposed to have a very active and very successful Jalen Carter. Also a very active and very successful Jordan Davis in this game. Hopefully being able to get after Baker Mayfield, who had been sacked 7 times in the previous week by the Broncos and 5 times in the previous week as well. So he had been gotten after by defensive lines. You did not see that too much in the game today. And to break it down how things started out for this Eagles team, in the hole 21-0 in the early goings of that second quarter. 3 out of the 4 first possessions there by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ended with touchdowns. They ran 24 plays, scoring 3 touchdowns over that span. Seth, could you break down anything? Could you recognize what Vic Fangio was trying to do and why they weren't having any success in the early goings?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the hell Nick Fangio was trying to do, to be honest with you, because it was pretty apparent in the first drive that you need to make an adjustment in your coverage. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were sacked 12 times in the first 3 games. 12 times. So you had to know that the passing attack against a team that primarily plays zone, the thought was going to be, okay, let's get the ball out of Baker's hand. Let's throw it short. Let's, real quick. We don't want to get this pass rush on us. These defensive tackles dominated last week, and in their 5 and in their 6-man front, they got a lot of pressure. What do? We come out. Our cornerbacks are 8 to 10 yards off the ball against 2 of the biggest and strongest wide receivers in the league, and we got no pressure on the quarterback at all, and Baker was just playing pitch and catch, throughout the first, they scored 5 out of the first 4 out of the first 5 possessions of the game. 4 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns and a field goal. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if that's going to be their game plan, then I got to adjust. Let me get my corners up. Let's play some bump coverage. Even if you're going to play zone, and you're going to play quarters or quarters, halves, or cover 3, whatever you're going to, let's play it from bump. So at least, I got my corners up where they can react to these short passes. But they just sat back off the ball and let Baker just dink and dunk all the way down the field. And then the worst part is they got the run game going a little bit in the first half. Let me see. What did they have? In the first half, they had 61 yards rushing on 10 carries. Okay, that's 6.1 yards per carry. So we talked about in the pregame how you have to get one thing under control. But if you're going to let Baker throw these little short intermediate routes, and then all of a sudden he hands it off and they're ripping you for 6 yards, my goodness, what kind of defense are you playing? There was no adjustment through the first half, and for the most part, you go into halftime down by a large margin. The game was done right then and there. The game was over by halftime because you didn't make an adjustment in the second series or the third series of the game. So I don't know what Vic Fangio's game plan was, but whatever it was, after the first or second possession, D-Gun, he needed to change it right then and there, and he made no adjustment, and they kept doing the same thing. So what's the different definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, thinking that, you're going to get a different result. And to add insult to injury, not only were they playing pitch and catch the entire time, but we were tackling like crap through that whole process. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem. You got to identify, you got to make a decision, Vic Fangio, who the hell you're going to be. The first game, they played aggressively. They came out in the second game, they didn't play aggressive. They came out in game 3, they played more aggressively. He took away the run game. They got pressure on the quarterback. You come out this week against Baker Mayfield, who had a terrible week last week, who's been sacked 12 times, and you come with nothing to upset what they're doing. And you got decent cornerbacks. You got decent cornerbacks that can cover. Get them up in a much more aggressive stance, put them in position to challenge people at the line of scrimmage. But if you're going to play them off, I always say aggressive defenses only become aggressive because of how the defensive coordinator is calling the defense. You look at Todd Bowles. From the word jump, he was aggressive all day. I'm not going to let the running game get going early. I'm going to put the pressure on Jalen Hurts, and when I get him in second and third down and long situations, we're going to come and we're going to pressure him, okay? So what did his defense do? They played hyper-aggressively. How many sacks did they have on the day? Six sacks.
Yeah.
Okay? 6 sacks and 2 turnovers. Turnovers come as a result of playing aggressively. Tell me how many turnovers the Eagles had.
None.
How many turnovers have they had on the year?
8 turnovers. You mean in
how many
takeaways? Two.
How many takeaways?
Yeah.
Okay?
2 interceptions, read blanket.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why they're not turning the football over is because they don't play aggressively. When you talk about turnovers, they talk about them in terms of them being forced, okay? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers forced turnovers today. Levante David forced a fumble, okay? The interception was forced by good coverage, okay? Good aggressive coverage. But when you play off and you play soft, the mindset of your team is soft and non-aggressive. So that means you're not forcing anything. You're having everything forced upon you. And then you wonder why. You get your ass rung up for 33 points in this game.
I thought Vic Fangio did a great job last week against the Saints of containing the edge and keeping Alvin Kamara from getting to the outside. First 2 series, they let lesser backs today, Irving and White, run to the outside and sustain drives to help them build that 14-0 lead in the first 2 drives. And like Seth said, we're sitting there talking, what kind of adjustments is Fangio going to make on the run defense? Why does he not have his corners coming up and playing bump and run? Hey, Tampa was doing it. Now, I understand. Tampa wasn't afraid of this collection of receivers without A.J. Brown and without Devonta Smith. I get that, but the fact of the matter is he made the adjustments. Vic Fangio didn't make the adjustments. We could go out there and take 1 or 2 steps and turn around and catch the ball and get 5 yards against that soft coverage that they're playing in today's game. And I don't understand why Vic Fangio, who's supposed to be this brilliant defensive mind, does not make the necessary adjustments. Every week is different. And after the first 2 series, you know what they're trying to do. Baker Mayfield, 1-2-3 throw, 1-2-3 throw. He neutralized any potential pass rush the Eagles are going to have in this game today by getting the ball out of his hands so quickly. And it was easy to play pitch and catch. This guy standing 5 yards open and had plenty of time to turn and pick up an additional 5-10 yards. You don't make the adjustment. You can get your butts handed to you on a silver platter every time.
All right, well, listen, before you go, you can either excite aggression and confidence in your players, or you can do the opposite. I understand that Mike Evans is a bad dude. He's a good wide receiver. I understand that Chris Godwin is a bad dude. He's a good wide receiver. But you cannot ever give your opponent that kind of respect.
No.
And incite that kind of fear in your players, because what you're telling your corners when you allow them to play 10 yards off the ball, we don't want to give up the big play, okay? So, again, I'll say this. You guys have heard me say this before, okay? Do you want to die by 1,000 cuts, or would you just rather have 1 stab in the heart and be done with it, okay? What's the difference between playing aggressive and giving up a big play, or being passive and letting the team just march down the field on you? 10 plays, 79 yards. 5 plays, 80 yards. 12 plays, 76 yards. 12 plays, 70 yards. What's the difference? You might as well take your chance of trying to make something happen rather than just letting them methodically move down the field and convert first downs all day long.
There are 29 first downs in this game today. 29 first downs in this game.
I want to combine the points you guys just made here. First, Gunnar, the point you made about you notice that Baker Mayfield, time and time again, 1, 2, 3, balls out. 1, 2, 3, balls out. Steps, not seconds. So quicker than that.
Yeah.
Seth, you're talking about guys you know can cover in this Eagles secondary. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever had lower confidence than I do right now in Darius Slay and the way he's played the cornerback position. But to help him out and also help out that defensive line, try to get home and get some sacks in the early goings of this game, to try to throw some kind of monkey wrench into what the Bucs are trying to do in the early goings of the game. Where's press coverage? I know no one wants to play it outside, but why don't we see it in this game in particular when you know it's a way that you might be able to throw the Bucs off the game that they're trying to execute?
Listen, Tampa's not stupid. The offensive coordinator is not stupid. Baker Mayfield took what was there. They didn't try to force anything. How many deep balls did Baker Mayfield complete? Almost none.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to stand 10 yards off the ball and you're going to throw the ball out to my wide receiver, my big, strong wide receiver, okay, at 5 yards, and you know the defensive back is going to break down, stop his feet because he don't want the guy to get by. Now he's going to pick up another 2, 3, 4 yards before you actually tackle him. And I'm telling you right now, if you go back and you look at this game and you look at the plays where Darius Slay played up close on Mike Evans and look at times where Mitchell played up close, they played some pretty damn good coverage. I mean, you had batted down balls. You had a ball where Darius almost intercepted it on the break. These guys can do it. But if your defensive coordinator puts this kind of fear in you that we don't want to give up the big play and you're going to play off the ball, well, every quarterback in the National Football League and every single coordinator in the National Football League is going to say, okay, you're going to give me 5? I'll take 5. Because guess what? It's 2nd and 7 now. Okay, my playbook is wide open on 2nd and 7. I can either run it off or I can play action and throw it and come back, and convert on 3rd down, convert the 1st down on 3rd down. So you're not putting the team behind the sticks when you play non-aggressively like that. And I am so sick and tired of this type of defense because they can't win football games like this. They can't be successful long-term playing this way. At some point in time, these cornerbacks that you drafted in the 1st round because you felt like he was the best corner in the draft, and this cornerback that you're paying $13, $14 million, who is a man coverage cornerback, you got to put them in situations for them to be able to fight and be able to challenge at the line of scrimmage. You cannot play them off the ball 8, 9, 10 yards all the time. You're not going to win football games that way, and offenses are going to take you apart.
Said at the beginning of this season that the offense would have to carry the defense until the defense catches up. And what we've seen from this defense so far is an abundance of inconsistency. A good game last week, atrocious game this week. Weather cannot be a factor. Everybody has to adjust, whether it's minus 15, whether it's 110 degrees outside. You have to learn how to adjust. But I'm beginning to think that Vic Fangio overall does not have the personnel he wants to do a lot of things that he wants to do in this defense. And I think this defense is going to be what it is for the rest of this season, to be honest. It's going to be a good game one week, not so good game the next week, but this offense is going to have to pick it up. The last 3 games, they've scored 21, 15, and 16 points. And I understand you didn't have your 2 number 1 receivers, but you still have enough offense to score more than 15, 16 points in a game. You can't win any football game scoring 15, 16 points in the National Football League in today's brand of football.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, also, you can't do it allowing 15 yards per play.
Absolutely
essentially.
not. Absolutely
and what happened in particular in the second possession of the game for Tampa Bay, they're already up 7-0. Listen to these plays. 16-yard reception, 28-yard reception.
Yes.
This is all one drive. 17-yard reception, 15-yard touchdown reception. Second possession of the game, marched down the field for what was a 5-play, 80-yard drive, just like that. To use the word again, preparation. Where's the preparation? And then that's the second possession. Where's the adjustment after you let him march down the field in the first possession of the game as well?
Here's what's sad. To me, the best play on defense today was Brandon Graham's sack. That's the best play the defense had. 36-year-old Brandon Graham had the best play. Now, Josh Sweat finally got a sack. But where's the rest of the big plays from the defense? Where's generating a turnover, something, anything?
I'm glad you mentioned that because they wasted it. Because what happened on the very next play? They have an 11-yard sack by Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
After that, on special teams, this is why every facet of the game was bad. Special team, hey, they blocked the extra point. They took it back for 2 extra. Good for you guys. But otherwise on special teams, when it comes to punt coverage or a return game, it was terrible today. You had a situation on that punt after the sack by Brandon Graham where it looked like, I think it was Rodgers pushing in McCollum maybe, pushing in a Tampa Bay Buccaneer into Cooper DeJean. And then you see a similar play later in the game with Keely Ringo running into the punt returner. Michael Clay was a guy that was under a lot of fire last year. I can't remember a time in Philadelphia where we talked about calling out a special teams coordinator more so than they did with Michael Clay. But this was a very unorganized special teams effort by the team today as well. I mean, this was 3 for 3 in things that just stunk from that Eagles locker room today.
I tell you what. I know we've been talking a lot about the defense, and we have to, but we'll get to the offense. But I'm going to say this, as a prelude to getting to the offense after this next break. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could come out and come up with a game plan to get the ball out of their quarterback's hands quickly, why can't the Eagles do the same thing?
Exactly.
You got a 6'5", 6'6", Johnny Wilson. Why isn't he running slant routes against these cornerbacks? You look at the Eagles' offense and all the passes go outside the numbers or outside the hash marks. I think Jalen only completed 2 balls in the middle of the field all day today. They don't use the whole field. Where's the deep dig route? Those balls that Chris Godwin caught across the middle, where is our wide receiver? And I know that A.J. Brown is the guy that usually does that. But he's out. Somebody's got to raise their hand and say, hey, coach, I'll get it done. Where are those plays? Where's Dallas Goedert across the field, in the middle of the field? Where are wide receivers? Where are our double crossers with a deep dig behind it? If everybody else is doing it, why can't we do it? It's almost like we have this offense that's set up in a specific way. Everybody knows what we're trying to do. Everybody knows we're trying to throw the ball outside, But we keep doing the same thing, expecting that, sooner or later teams are sitting on it. They know what you're going to do. Where are the plays in the middle of the field? Where's the quick passing game? How come Baker Mayfield can do it, but Jalen Hurts can't go 1, 2, 3, get the ball out of his hand? 1, 2, 3, ball out, 5-step drop, ball out of his hands. Everything is drop back. Let me look and see. Everybody's running vertical routes down the field. Why don't we just take what the defense is giving us? Where's Saquon Barkley across the middle on the F under? Why can't we get 5 yards on first down in the passing game, come back and run it on second down, get 2 or 3 yards and convert on third down? Why can't we do it? Everybody else seems to be able to do it. It's in everybody else's game plan. Everybody else is game planning it. Why can't we get it done? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and that was unfortunately a repeating theme. By halftime, it was 7 of 15. Jalen Hurts was 7 of 15 for just 49 yards and a touchdown. Now, you're right, Seth. We're going to break down what you saw from Jalen Hurts coming up in a second. But before we get into that part of it, I think we understand how much the Eagles did miss. And I'm not blaming injury, but I want to highlight this before we break down the quarterbacks play individually today. A.J. Brown not being there today. Devontae Smith obviously not being there today. It seemed like for long periods of this game, Dallas Goedert was forgotten about. Saquon Barkley was forgotten about at certain points of this game, it felt like. There was no offensive rhythm established, and there was one particular instance that Jalen Hurts had Saquon Barkley behind everybody, and I think it was the first possession of the game, rolled to right, under duress, and overthrew the football. Actually threw it out of bounds. I don't even think it was a playable ball. And that was a situation where you could have turned the tides a little bit in your first possession, but unfortunately it was an errant throw there by Jalen Hurts, and there was never a point where you really felt like the Eagles were going to start fighting their way back into this game, and when they did, something egregious happened. A fumble, another touchdown allowed there by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a big 3rd and 14 conversion, or a 3rd and 14, and then there was a penalty on the defense to give the automatic first down. Time and time again, it felt like this team continuously shot themselves in the foot, both offensively and defensively.
Every quarterback has his go-to guy in situations. Jalen Hurts has 2 of them. Neither one was on the football field today, and I alluded to this on the pregame show. I wanted to see how much or how little Jalen would trust Jahan Dotson, Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson. I don't think he has that kind of trust in them yet. A quarterback can throw to a spot because he knows his receiver is going to be in that particular spot. I don't think he has that kind of continuity and chemistry with those guys. You saw him standing back there patting the ball, waiting for people to get open, and nobody came open. And, of course, he ended up either throwing the ball away or taking a sack. Those things take time. You knew it was going to be tough without A.J., but when you lose Devontae as well, playing against the Todd Bowles defense, and Todd Bowles is a master of giving you illusions when he sends his defense after you, it plays right into his hands and plays against the quarterback. And Jalen is already struggling. Jalen plays well in spurts, but he's already struggling as it is this season, and this just compounded the issue today.
Fair enough. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look closer at Jalen Hurts' performance today. We talked about Nick Sirianni, how hot is his seat right now. Jalen Hurts, how short a leash is he going to have No, he's supposed to be the franchise quarterback. Didn't look like it today, unfortunately. Break down his play when we return on the betPARX postgame show here from Parx Casino, presented by Lehocky. Taking a look at the betPARX Sportsbook. Don't forget about all the fun you could have, including Parx Racing as well here at Parx Casino.
At Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
This is Parx. Parx, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you. Bailey Livesey coming along in a second, our social media correspondent, to tell us what you guys are saying there in the chat. We've talked a lot about the Eagles' defense, rightfully so. Huge letdown to let the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get out to a huge lead, 21-0 in this game, 24-0 eventually. Jalen Hurts struggled in this one as well. We just rattled off in the first half of this game alone, 7 of 15 with 1 touchdown. Another struggle performance, as we saw a lot of Jalen Hurts at the end of last season. When you look at Jalen Hurts' performance today, Seth Joyner, what do you take away from a guy who is the Eagles franchise quarterback who just now is in his second year of a $250 million contract? What did you take away from his performance today?
Well, listen, I'm not going to make a big deal about the money because, there's a whole lot of other quarterbacks that suck or has sucked that's making a ton of money. That's just what the market bears. I've been a huge Jalen Hurts backer, proponent, but something's off. I don't know. He's either not understanding the offense and how this offense needs to work. There's no consistency here. Now, I don't agree with the play calling in a lot of instances. Out of the first, they had 5 possessions in the first half, and they had 4 punts out of those possessions. 4 of those were 3 and out. Now, with a guy like Saquon Barkley, how in the world can you tell me that you have a situation like that? On the first series, Saquon ran it once. On the second series, Saquon ran it once. On the third series, Saquon didn't touch it at all. Then they put together a 14-play drive. They scored their first touchdown. They had 6 runs on that 14-play drive. And then they come back, they go 3 and out again. They have 0 runs. So, listen, play calling in this game left a lot to be desired because this seems to be an offense and an offensive staff to me that really wants to force the issue. They want to take, what they want instead of taking what the offense is giving them. Because in a game like this where your opponent comes out and they go 10 plays for 79 yards, they just march right down the field, your response has to be, okay, we need to match it. And the way that we're going to match it is we got to convert some third downs here to get some clock to give our defense a break because it's hot as all Hades out here today. So you come out and you don't move the football at all. You come out in the second series and you only gain you gained 7 yards in the first series. You went -7 in the second series. The Eagles went the entire first quarter with 0 yards on offense. So some of it has to go on the side of the coaches, but then Jalen's got to be more efficient and more effective in how he plays. And I've defended him a lot. I can't defend him in this game because there were plays there to be made. There was opportunities there for him to run. You know, we talk about him staying in the pocket. Oftentimes today he stayed in the pocket too long. So now we got to make up our damn minds. What do we want out of Jalen Hurts? Do we want him to get out of the pocket and make something happen when nothing's there? And especially on a day like today when you don't have your top 2 wide receivers, you need to get out of the pocket and try to go and make something happen. Today was one of the worst performances I've seen out of him. Now, he made some great throws. On that first possession, Dallas Goedert dropped the ball that he should have caught that would have extended the possession, and nobody knows what would have happened. But there's no way that you can tell me, and I don't care whether you got A.J. Brown and Devontae or not, you should not go 5 3-and-outs, okay, out of 4 3-and-outs out of 5 possessions in the first half of a game. And I don't care what defense you're playing against. Todd Bowles hadn't even turned up the heat at that point in time. They were just playing basic zone defense and playing good run defense. And the Eagles had no remedy whatsoever. And Jalen Hurts made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. You know, they don't take what's there. I can't tell you how many times that he drops back and he's got Saquon Barkley wide open in the flat all by himself. We're sitting there watching the game, guys, and the minute that he snaps the ball and I see Saquon out the backfield, I'm screaming, throw Saquon the ball. He's open right there. You know you're going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 yards out of that every single time. But they continue to want to just push the ball down the field and take what's not there instead of taking the easy plays and converting first downs, and now put yourself in a situation where, okay, now we got to worry about Saquon out of the backfield. So now I get that cornerback, even if he's in cover 2, instead of him playing back and taking away that up the field route, now he starts to cheat up a little bit because he doesn't want Saquon to get ahead of steam. Now you can take the shots. They don't set up what they want. To me, in a lot of ways, there's no rhyme or reason to the play calling at times. And this is not just Kellen Moore. It's been that way, you know, for I don't know how long. It seems like they got plays that they call, and they just call them randomly. I don't see a run play with a pass action off of it, or I don't see a pass play with a run action off of it. I just see random plays being called with no coordination whatsoever. And as long as they continue to call plays like that and Jalen continues to make bad decisions, this team is going to struggle offensively. Even if you get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back and Lane Johnson's healthy, if they don't fix this, they're going to continue to struggle even when those guys come back.
I don't know how much of this is actual scheming and play calling or compared to Jalen just being indecisive and not sure of what he's seeing. You know, a quarterback always has to keep his head on the swivel every play. You know, and especially if you're trying to go downfield and nobody's open, you got to start looking for the out routes and see who's standing in the flats. And we're watching these guys standing wide open in the flats, and he's still trying to force the ball in other areas. You know, what do they talk about? We talk about take what they give you.
Agreed.
Don't try to force the issue. Your time will come. If you start killing them underneath, what happens, Seth? The outside containment starts to cheat up a little bit more. All of a sudden, your weapons on the outside, even if you don't have A.J., even if you don't have a Devontae, you have guys with enough speed in a John Ross, a Paris Campbell, to slip behind a defender. But you've got to make them cheat. If you don't make them cheat, why would you cheat when all they talked about is keeping everything in front of you? Let them have the underneath, especially when we got a big lead. They got to play a catch-up. They got to catch us. Let them have all that little dink and dunk stuff. Just don't let them get past you. But if you're burning them and you're getting closer, now they've got to play percentages. And every now and then, if you're smart enough, you catch them sleeping and you dump one behind them. But they try to force it too much, too soon behind them.
Well, I tell you, you know, the mandate from this organization is big plays, explosive plays. Everybody likes to talk about them. But I don't know how many times I've said it. I'll continue to say it. Big plays are not earned. You don't just take them. So the one deep shot that he took to Paris Campbell, Dean had great coverage on him. Like, he wasn't open to throw him that ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you just throwing it up there hoping that he can make a play? It makes no sense to me, And I'm telling you right now, the good quarterbacks, they know where everybody is on the field. This is an issue with Jalen that I have, and I get it. He's in a new offense. He's probably still trying to learn everything, but everything's numbered in the offensive play call, or there's words that determine what type of route each receiver is going to run and what kind of route the back is going to run. So he's making the call. So he should know that. So he's got to know where everybody is. So if I'm looking down the field and my primary and my secondary isn't there, I know right now I have the dump off right here. I know that because as a quarterback, I know where everybody is on the field, or at least I should.
How many times do we watch Baker dump it off in the flats? How many times do we watch that in the game? And he would look downfield. In a fraction of a second, his head was on a swivel to the guy standing open in the flats, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. Jalen doesn't do that.
I'm telling you, Tampa Bay during the week looked at the previous 3 games and saw that they had an issue protecting Baker, okay? So I guarantee you the coaching point this week was, okay, we want to look at our primary, we want to look at our secondary. If they take it away, we're going to dump the ball off.
That's right.
Like right now.
That's
we're
right.
not even going to hesitate. Not even going to hesitate. I don't see that from Jalen. And I don't know whether it's the fact that he doesn't know where everybody is on the field or whether they're just that damn greedy that they're going to try to force it down the field, understanding that you got 2 guys, you got some guys that's new on your offensive line. There was a point in time where Dickerson had to move over to center. You had 2, 3 different guys in there. I just don't understand it. Stop trying to force the issue and take what the defense is giving you. The name of the game. And this is the other thing that I hear. I've heard in the past. Okay, I've heard Nick Sirianni say it is so difficult to go 12, 11, 13 play drives. It is so hard. Who gives a damn? At the end of the day, if you go 10, 11, 12 plays and you score, who cares?
Yeah.
And then you minimize the amount of possessions. Tampa Bay had 10 possessions in this game today, D-Gun.
Yeah.
You can't win football allowing an offense that's clicking on all cylinders to have that many possessions. Get to a place where you're converting, where you bring that number down to 7 or 8. Now you got a legitimate shot at winning. And who cares how many plays it takes to get there? Just because you get there in 5 or 6 plays doesn't mean that your defense was playing well enough today for them not to give up the points. Okay? So they got to get to a point where they become a little less greedy in their mindset and say, okay, if it takes us 10-plus plays to get in scoring position, then that's what we're going to do. But we're not going to continue to try to force the ball down the field. And every time they do that, the percentages of Jalen turning the football over go up exponentially. So I'm going to say this, and I know some people aren't going to agree with it. The way he's being coached and the way that he's being asked to run this offense contributes to the turnovers just as much as his bad decision-making is, because he's looking for the downfield home runs, the explosive plays, instead of just taking what's there, taking what's obvious, okay? A guy did the broadcast today that won 7 Super Bowls, that made a living winning those 7 Super Bowls by taking what the defense was given. And until they got a lead and they began to force the defense to do things that were uncharacteristic or make them take chances that they didn't want to take, then he said, okay, I got Gronk on a mismatch. Let's send him on a go route. Or I got one of my receivers that, he's not a heralded guy, but he got enough speed and I like the mismatch. Let's send him on a go route or a post route and let's go for a home run. But you don't get the home runs just because you want it. You got to earn it by running the football and in the passing game early, taking what the defense is giving you and methodically moving down the field and forcing the defense to do something that they really don't want to do.
Certainly. Absolutely. Let's get to what our chat has to say. Let's bring in our social media correspondent, Bailey Livesey, joins us right now. Bailey, what are they saying in the comments?
Hello, everyone. So let's dive right into these questions and get your thoughts on what the audience wants to know. Starting off, the bye week could not have come at a better time. What do you feel are the top priorities on this bye week?
Seth, you want to take the first one? Top priorities on the bye.
Well, the top priority, obviously, is get healthy. I mean, you got to get your playmakers back. And then, for me, the other priority is Vic Fangio needs to stand in front of the mirror and ask himself what the identity of my defense is going to be. Are we going to continue to play a passive-style defense like this? And when our offense isn't clicking, we're going to be in a position of losing games, or are we going to come out like we came out in Green Bay and how we came out against the New Orleans Saints and with a much more aggressive stance?
What do you weigh in on that, Gunner?
Health is the biggest thing. Get Lane back, get your 2 elite wide receivers back, and I think things will change significantly in that regard. But I also believe you've got to retrain the mindset of how you're going to play defense, more so than anything else. This inconsistency in the defense is going to lead in the inconsistency in your record all season long. You can't be hot one game and cold the next game and expect – I mean, look at how many – the first 3 games were very close games decided by a total of 9 points. They're lucky to be 2-1 in those games. In a game like this, when your identity is exposed early and is utilized against you, now Tampa Bay's not an offensive juggernaut. They're an average offensive team. They lit you up today. What are some of the better offensive teams going to do if you continue to play that style of defense? So Fangio has 2 weeks now to decide, who are my dogs on defense? Who can I count on? We thought it was Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis last week. We know old man Brandon Graham still has a lot of dog in him, but he needs a few more puppies to come up the ranks with him before this thing's all said and done.
Well, that's part of the problem too. They don't have enough dogs on defense.
No.
And they don't have enough playmakers on defense. You look at Levante David, he took that game over in the second half. He's a playmaker.
And look how old he is, and he's balling.
So, listen,
balling.
For me, I get sick and tired of people talking about how great a player is, especially a linebacker. Oh, how great he is. He had 10 tackles. Well, guess what? If they run the ball 25 times in a game, your linebacker should have, 10 tackles.
Right.
Okay? Tackles aren't an indication to me of how good a player is. What's an indication to me as a linebacker how good he is, can he do everything? Okay? When you call upon him to rush the passer, can he rush the passer? Levante David today had 2 sacks and a caused fumble. Okay? I don't know how many tackles he had, but I'm pretty sure he had plenty. Okay? The Eagles don't have enough playmakers on their defense.
No.
They got guys, and when you construct the defense, Deacon, when you construct the defense, you need guys that are going to play by the letter of the law. They're going to be technicians and they're going to be fundamentalists. That means that if I'm responsible for contain, come hell or high water, they ain't getting around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll stretch this thing out as far as I got to stretch it, but I can promise you one thing, they're not getting around the corner, okay? You got to have guys like Jordan Davis. Okay, he's not a pass rusher. He's not explosive. So guess what? If they try to run that ball anywhere within my vicinity, I'm going to hold a point against a double team. And if you single block me, I'm going to destroy that guy, and I'm going to cut the field in half. So guess what? If you run this way, there's no cutback lane.
That's right.
Okay? But then I got to have those other guys who can hit the gaps where they're supposed to hit the gaps and take a shot, take a chance. I need a guy like Jalen Carter to play like he played last week. Destroy your blocker. Get off the block right now. They don't have any playmakers. They have none on the defensive side of the ball. And I would venture to say that a lot of that, too, goes to how Vic Fangio coaches them to play. You can't play aggressive when the mindset of your defensive coordinator is non-aggressive. So you're not forcing anything. You're just on your heels at all times trying to figure out, what's going on instead of forcing the issue.
I agree with you guys entirely when it comes to Vic Fangio identifying those dogs on the defense. But the other thing is, we can't forget how long Vic Fangio's been at this. And what's the old saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Right. I don't think anything's changing with Vic Fangio. If he can get something to change within his players, wholeheartedly agree with you. But the other person that I think needs to look in the mirror for a long period of time, maybe even a full 2 weeks, is Jalen Hurts. Because one of the big things going into this season was not turning the football over. What has he done this season? He has turned the football over. You could go ahead and say, all right, good. In a couple weeks, I'm going to have A.J. Brown back. I'm going to have Devontae Smith back. I have Dallas Goedert now. I could use him, especially when I have those other weapons in the offense. But I got to protect the football. And you're seeing far too many times with Jalen Hurts, turnovers on first down. Ill-advised turnovers, when you're talking about ill-advised throws on first down, where you could obviously live to fight on the very next play, not another day, but the very next play. And then you see him in a very tight window today when the Eagles are starting to push back in that game. We had an argument in the green room as to whether or not that fumble was really his fault. Should have felt the pressure. First down, understand you have an opportunity when you know you're being pressured to tuck that football, get out of the pocket. That was an example, I think. He held on to the ball too long, should have gotten rid of that pocket, or gotten out of that pocket and made a play. These next 2 weeks, Jalen Hurts needs to say, am I the franchise guy or not? Because one thing I definitely learned in the Carson Wentz era here in Philadelphia was, as the quarterback, you have a great opportunity to be the deodorant to that stink when everything else stinks. And Jalen Hurts had an opportunity to be that deodorant today, and he came up short of doing that.
It is just as important for Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni to possibly restructure the mindset of Jalen in terms of what you want him to do in this offense. It may be changing the style of how you call the plays. It's a three-headed component here. It's the quarterback, the OC, and the head coach. They have to come to a meeting of the minds over the next 2 weeks before their next game in terms of how do we want to utilize this $250 million quarterback. Mm-hmm. What do we need to delete from his arsenal in our play calling to make him excel and to be more efficient in the overall play scheme?
Bailey, I'm sorry. That question really put the quarter in the machine.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Bailey's like, hey, I'm over here waiting. Hey,
Bailey,
I got another question here.
Bailey Livesey. Yes, what's our second question?
Okay, moving on to the second question. The defense looked lost today. What do you think is currently the weakest link on the defense?
Whew. Oh, I tell you what the weakest link is. It's twofold. Lack of rush and a lack of tackling. You know, the fundamentals of the game, for some reason, evade this team. I think this team has to go back to the drawing board. And Vic Fangio, okay, I know you like your four-man front. Guess what? Your four-man front stinks. You're going to have to apply more pressure. Maybe take a page out of Todd Bowles' book. You're going to have to start bringing him in from odd angles and stuff like that. Cheat a safety down. Cheat a cornerback down. Do something, because your four-man blitz is not enough. You made Baker Mayfield look like the guy in the booth today, Tom Brady. He went down the field, walked down the field on your defense that took it to Derek Carr and the Saints last week. He walked down the field on your defense all day, and you did nothing to adjust to it. So you, Mr. Guru of defensive coordinators, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, what do I do differently to get more effectiveness out of this personnel?
Seth, who do you got? Who's in your crosshairs the most?
I still think it begins and ends with the three guys in the middle. I really do. You know, you've got to dominate the line of scrimmage, because if you can't dominate the line of scrimmage, you can't win. Now, and I get it. Today, the game plan was to get the ball out of their hands, so the pass rush wasn't going to get there anyway. You know, so if that's the case, then you got to get your corners up and you got to get them to challenge the wide receivers a little more and make that quarterback come off his first read and go to his second read to give your pass rush time to get there. You know, D-Gun, you know, we talked about it, I think, in week one when we were talking about the whole Hassan Reddick thing. And, you know, you said that the Eagles don't have any interest in bringing him back.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And you know what I said to you back then? You remember what I said?
I said, talk to me about week 4.
I said, talk to me.
I remember. Yeah.
Talk to me about it by week 4. You know, because the truth of the matter is, you can either rush the passer or you can't.
Right.
Okay. Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff can't rush the passer.
Right.
And they're not going to magically turn into these great pass rushers, you know, over the next, 13 games? It ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I know that, you know, the likelihood of them being able to adjust and figure out how to go, you know, bring Hassan Reddick back is slim to none. It's probably not going to happen. But this is what they brought upon themselves when they believed that Bryce Huff could be an every down player. This is what they brought upon them when they drafted Nolan Smith and seen over the last year and a half that he's just not that guy. So how are you going to fix that? The only way you can fix it is by scheming up blitzes. And the Eagles, you know, Vic Fangio, from what I've seen, he doesn't scheme up blitzes the way that Todd Bowles does. Todd Bowles gets 5, 6, 7 guys up in the line. And sometimes they come and sometimes they drop.
Right.
Sometimes this guy comes, he sugars real hard, and he drops out and they send a guy from the other side. Everybody else has that creativity. on the defensive side of the ball, except for the Eagles. When we want pressure, we walk Zach Bond down on the end, which gets us to our 5-man front. And we still, if we're playing zone, we still got to either drop him off or drop Nolan Smith off on the other side or drop BG off on the other side. We never send those 5. When they come with a 5-man blitz, they bring the Kobe Dean. And he runs up in there like Velcro on his chest and gets stuck on either the offensive lineman or the back every single time. He cannot rush the passer. But you know what? They have a linebacker that can, and for some reason or another, they don't want to play him. And y'all know who it is.
Right. Let me add to something that you said about Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith can't rush. Maybe it's this scheme, because Bryce Huff could do it in the jet scheme. That's why he got $51 million. He only played 40% of the snaps. But why was he that much more effective in the jet scheme, and he's lost in this scheme? You look at his stat total, for that kind of money, give me that kind of money. I can go out there and make 1 assisted tackle in 4 games. You can pay me that kind of money. I'll go out there and break my body up for that kind of money. Maybe it's this scheme that just does not suit him. But it's the onus of the defensive coordinator to find something that makes him fit. Even if you play him less in terms of percentage of snaps, find something that suits in your overall scheme where he can be more effective and be more disruptive. Because right now, that man's on a milk carton. He's nowhere.
Let me throw this out right quick. So last week I had an epiphany about Bryce Huff. Based upon something that Vic Fangio said throughout training camp and towards the end of camp. Bryce Huff is a $53 million project. He's a $53 million project.
A project of $53 million.
A $53 million project. You want to know why? Vic Fangio said he's learning how to play the position. When the reporters asked him how he's coming along, he said he's learning how to play the position. Every day he's getting a little bit better. How in the hell do you go and sign a guy for $53 million and then turn around and say he's learning how to play the damn position?
Right.
Can you please tell me how that makes sense?
I can't. But I go back to what I said. Why is he so ineffective in this system compared to the Jet system?
Because he wasn't ready for the promotion.
He had 11,
that much.
He had 11 sacks in that Jet system.
Because the Jets knew that those 11 sacks last year was an anomaly. They knew that. If that wasn't the case, they would have turned around and paid him $53 million. But they was more than happy to jettison him and let Hassan and get Hassan Reddick. They were more willing to do that than to sign the 25-year-old guy. They were willing to bring on the 29, about to turn 30-year-old guy. So that told me that the Jets knew something about him that the Eagles didn't know, and they fleeced the hell out of Howie Roseman.
But real quick, one more question. Let's finish the line. We have one more comment we got to get to.
Sorry, Bailey.
That's all right. Bailey Lindsay,
like,
our final question.
Hello.
Our final comment. Go for it, please.
Last but not least, we discussed coaching concerns last week, but let's revisit this. Do we need to be concerned moving forward with this coaching staff?
Yes. I will answer that right away.
With the coaching staff?
I'm terrified, especially with the head coach. Are you kidding me? Seth, how about you?
D-Gun, you go ahead, because I want to think before I speak.
You want to choose your words carefully?
Should we be concerned about this coaching staff? Absolutely, and it's not just the head coach. It is also the coordinators at this point. They have to get more out of what they have. Right. And we understand that there are players that are going to fall by the wayside along the way. But as we looked at this roster at the beginning of the season, we thought it was one of the deepest rosters in the National Football League. It hasn't been that case for 4 weeks now. It has been inconsistent in terms of how they attack, what they do right, and obviously glaringly what they do wrong. Offensively, Kellen Moore, well-established in the game. Defensively, Vic Fangio, considered one of the godfathers of defensive coordinators in the National Football League. Show me. You're paying all these people a lot of money. Head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. That's a whole lot of money you paying guys to be successful in the National Football League and to reach your ultimate goal of not just to get to the playoffs, but to get deep to the playoffs and possibly win the Super Bowl. As of right now, I'm concerned dearly about the three-headed brain trust that runs this offense and defense for the Eagles.
Seth, do you want the break to think about it?
No.
No, you want to fire right now?
No, because, D-Gun just validated some things, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I'm going to take it a step further.
Okay.
I'm concerned about Howie Roseman.
Oh.
Because Nick Sirianni didn't hire these guys. Howie Roseman hired these guys. Nobody built this roster but Howie Roseman, okay? So when it's all said and done, yeah, they're going to hold Nick Sirianni accountable for it all. But at the end of the day, nothing gets done without the okay of Howie Roseman. So you brought in a defensive coordinator who has shown 2 games out of 4 that he's good enough to get the job done. You brought in an offensive coordinator, who's shown for 2 out of 4 games that, hey, you can get something done. Jalen Hurts has even shown, coming into week 4, he's second in the NFL in overall yardage. 915 yards, I believe it is, right behind Lamar Jackson, okay? So that lends some validity to the fact that, hey, you know what? Maybe the coaches aren't getting the most out of these players that they can get out of them. But at the end of the day, the accountability has to begin and start with Howie Roseman and the coaches that he's picked, the roster that he's built, and the inefficiencies on both sides of it to actually get it done.
Bailey Livesey, thank you so much for chiming in right there with those 3 comments from our comment section. Appreciate the comments, and Bailey, above all, I appreciate your patience.
Of course. Anytime. Thank you.
Bailey Livesey joining us right there, our social media correspondent. We'll be back with the betPARX post-game show presented by Lehocky from Parx Casino. And there's a look right there at the 360 Lounge at Parx Casino. Enjoy a drink and some fine entertainment.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed.
Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident and someone says,
you should probably sue them.
Forget your friend. Call Lehocky Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Lehocky a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Before we go any further breaking down the X's and O's of this Eagles' embarrassing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we're going to talk to our sports doc himself, Dr. Bruce Grossiger, joining us right now. And Dr. Bruce, I know there are a lot of instances of Eagles dropping like flies, unfortunately, in this game due to cramps, maybe due to dehydration. Anything, I know the days of pickle juice seem to be long gone for the Eagles, but anything the Eagles could have done throughout this week to prepare for the heat and humidity down there in Tampa?
Gentlemen, funny you say pickle juice. We'll go back to the 2000 regular season game against the Cowboys. The field temperature was 130 degrees. That makes this look like a cool field. And Andy Reid had everybody juiced up with pickles. Deuce ran for 200 yards. Eagles won 41-14. As Seth noted earlier, hydration, salt water, this is preparation, this is training. And for so many people to go down with dehydration shows poor preparation.
What does it take in the course of a game for a player to fight his way back? Cam Jurgens, for instance, was cramping up in this game. What does it take when you get on the sidelines there, or maybe even at halftime? Does it take an IV? Are you already past the point of just drinking water? What do they have to do?
They actually have something in the locker room called cool immersion, 58 degrees. So you could actually, and I don't know how many people can fit in there, but we do that to prevent heat stroke. So you have dehydration. Heat stroke could be fatal. I think you recall that Minnesota Vikings a few years ago, a guy actually died. So they can certainly cool. They need a cool area, cool immersion. Also a ton of hydration, saltwater IVs. And it appears that they were ill-prepared. You need to preload, I say patients, players with sodium, salt water, salt tablets, pickle juice, and that's something that obviously did not happen today. That's no excuse because in the first quarter, they got completely blitzed. That's not an excuse there.
Doc, let's talk about some of these guys' injuries. So the obvious three is Devontae, AJ, and Lane. Obviously the extra week, the bye week now. All three of them, we expect for them to be ready by week 6. Today, late in the game, we didn't see Saquon Barkley, for almost the whole fourth quarter, and Dallas Goedert was absent from the game. Have you heard anything about what transpired with those guys and why they weren't in the game in the fourth quarter?
I've been in touch with one of my reporters in the locker room. I believe this is en masse dehydration. I didn't hear any specific physical injuries about Goddard or Barkley, but obviously I think that the whole team was prepared a certain way, or I would say unprepared.
As far as coming back next week, talking about hamstring injury there with A.J. Brown, also looking at what's going on with Devontae Smith and Lane Johnson. When it comes to a week off now due to the bye week, what are you expecting to see in 2 weeks from now when it comes to these Eagles injuries?
I believe that we have 2 weeks. That's going to be an eternity. I think that Lane certainly will be back. He was almost ready to be back. As far as Devontae Smith, that was really a bad concussion. He still has 2 more stages in the protocol to clear. I think it's also clear A.J. Brown will be ready to go. He actually was a limited participant in practice. So I think at first, and again, talking to Seth in pre-production, we all thought, why do they have the bye so early? But now I think it's a godsend.
Doc, before we let you go, any other reports on guys with injuries or situations that we can share with our viewers?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Britton Covey we've identified the bone, which is the scapular bone, the wing bone on his right side. Thankfully, this will not require surgery. This will be a 6-week process. He's on IR. He should be back fully. And this is just a broad bone that should heal fully. And as you saw today with Cooper DeJean, certainly it looked like the Keystone Cops out there on the punt return team, and it was a disaster, not medically speaking, but overall. But I think Britton did contribute a lot, especially with those little slant plays that were absent today. So I think he'll be back in 6 weeks.
Dr. Bruce Grossinger, our sports doc, we appreciate you coming on here for the post-game show, Doc, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks.
You will. Thank you. Have a good night.
See him in 2 weeks and a lot more healthy Eagles. Let's hope for that as well. We got into the question earlier whether or not you look at certain people on this Eagles team and say who needs to look in the mirror and improve going into next year, or should be going into next game.
They don't get it together, we will be talking about next.
I'll tell you one guy we haven't even talked about.
Who's that?
Devin White. You talk about
who?
Devin White. You talk about the biggest mystery in terms of offseason acquisitions. I can tell you this. I can tell you the Eagles overall have not been happy with his play. That's why he's not been on the football field. That's why he has been a healthy scratch the last 2 games. He missed this game for personal reasons. He stayed home in Philadelphia. The Eagles have to make a definitive decision in terms of what they're going to do with him, because this marriage is unraveling quickly. People thought I was nuts when I said last week they may have to let him go and let him go his way and just eat their loss and move on. To me, it's becoming more and more obvious that he is not a fit here, the Eagles realized that this was a bad move to bring him here. You can't just let him sit here and make him a healthy scratch every week, because then the questions increase. And as we've seen, the head coach gets more tense and more tense every week when you ask him about subjects he doesn't want to talk about. The best way to resolve this, now, you can say, okay, well, keep him here for depth reasons when somebody gets hurt, or keep him here as a mentor to younger players. That's not going to work with this organization. That's not going to work in this locker room. They're going to have to make a definitive decision, and that definitive decision could come during this bye week.
D-Gun, I know that, because of your insider status, there's certain things that you can't say.
Right.
I get it, okay? I need some more clarity. They're not happy with him. What? Is he not playing? Is he not picking up the defense? Is he being divisive? Because you can't tell me that a guy with his pedigree and a guy, with his success, that they can't find a way to use him. He's a better pass rusher from off the ball than any of the other linebackers that they have. You mean to tell me that Devin White can't run down on special teams and be a contributor on special teams? I think I saw that BetPARX was up today. I know they cut him and brought him back on the practice squad, and he was up playing on special teams today. You mean to tell me that they can't find somehow, some way, to utilize this guy to get some of that money, some of that money used that they actually signed him to? Is he just that bad of a football player that they can't put him on the field at all?
He's not a special teams player. His last good season was 2022. He lost the starting job in Todd Bowles' scheme in 2023. Eagles thought they could make him a reclamation project in 2024. They found out before training camp was over, we made a mistake. But by then, the money was guaranteed.
See, that's where I want to dispute, this whole notion. And it kind of makes me think that, hey, they've got a third rounder invested in Lehocky Dean. They really want him to be the starter. And I'm sorry. Sure. He shows flashes every once in a while when he isn't touched, and he makes a play here or there. But to me, he's just not it. He just ain't it. I'm sorry. That's just
on the inside.
On the inside.
He's on the outside.
Well, even on the outside, he's not a pass rusher.
But you know what? I think if you put him on the outside, Seth, okay, there are a lot of teams that have elite pass rushers on the outside that don't defend well against the run. Now, what's one of their glaring weaknesses? Getting somebody home from the outside. I'll take the loss of him being a mediocre run defender if he can get to the quarterback for me.
I don't think he can get to the quarterback.
We don't know because they got him bottled up on the inside.
He's not 6 foot. He's 220 pounds, soaking wet. Okay, you're gonna put him up rushing against a 330-pound tackle.
Yes,
he can't win that battle.
Seth, there are a lot of lightweight. There are a lot of lightweight outside edge rushers in the game today. Where are you going to play him then? He gets engulfed playing on the inside. Now he comes up, makes a tackle here and there, but if you're going to utilize him, put him on the outside. Let him do what he does, which is, to me, his quickness off the snap will give an advantage. And he can, if I don't know because we haven't seen it, he might have moves where he can get up and under some of these big gargantuan tackles and be more effective. Because right now he's being lost in the middle of that defense.
Listen, look, this is, we don't disagree about a whole lot, but I disagree with you on this.
Where are you going to play him?
He can't. Don't play him. Put Trotter Jr. in there. Trotter Jr. is more of a natural linebacker than Lehocky Dean will ever be. The only time that Lehocky is really effective is when they get in their 5 or their 6-man front and you allow them to run to the ball.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times a day where he had a clear path to the ball, nobody blocking him, and he still didn't get there and make the damn play, D-Gun. And I'm watching him down on the goal line. He had an opportunity to make a play on the goal line in one play, and he just didn't even run. I'm like, listen, they want their draft picks to work out, and they want to look smart. The one thing that the Eagles don't want to do is they don't want to look bad, and they never want to admit. Think about the first, second, and third round picks that the Eagles have drafted over the last 15 years that didn't pan out, and how long they stuck with those guys before they pulled the plug. I can make the decision for him right now. He's never going to be the player that they think he can be because he's not big enough, he's not strong enough, he's not aggressive enough, and he's definitely not fast enough.
Okay, what makes you think Trotter Jr. can do it any better? He's 6 foot 225. Lehocky Dean 6 foot 231. They're both supposed to be known for their quickness. What makes you think Trotter? And I'm not saying he can't. I'm honestly not disagreeing, but I'm saying what makes you think he can do it any better? The advantage that Dean has right now over Trotter is experience in the NFL. That's the only big difference right now.
What experience? He ain't played, D-Gun.
Okay, he been here.
He been here for two. He been here. This is his third year, correct?
He got injured. He missed a lot of playing time.
Well, but that's my point.
But
where's the experience? He doesn't have any experience because he ain't
got more NFL
played.
experience than Trotter does. That's all I'm saying. He has more NFL experience technically than Trotter does. And I think and I've said from day one, they misutilize him. They have from day one when they brought Nakobe Dean here, trying to make him an inside linebacker. And he's not an inside backer.
They drafted him for that. He won a national championship in one of the greatest college defenses of all time in playing middle backer. They didn't draft him to rush the passer. He never proved at Georgia that he could rush the passer. What Trotter Jr. has proven is that he can play linebacker on every single level so far and play it effectively. And he's a playmaker.
I don't disagree, but I still want to see Dean. We're going to sit here and argue about Dean all day. I want to see it. At least if I'm Vic Fangio, this stuff ain't working right now. I got to flip the script. I got to try something different.
Vic keeps singing his praises. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
I want to see it. I haven't seen him on the outside. I don't know.
Well,
I want to see it.
They'll have 2 weeks to try to come up with some remedy because we know right now is not working on anything close to a good, consistent basis. Consistent missed tackles? Absolutely. Good, consistent missed basis? Not even a little bit.
I guarantee you, Mark, he had about 4 or 5 missed tackles by himself today.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't alone. That was across the board.
With nobody blocking you. I wish I could have played with didn't nobody block me and just let me run to the run to the ball and just wreak havoc. Are you kidding me?
You said that on the touchdown run.
But this is the same
with Dean in the middle of the field.
We were singing the praises of week 2. In the game week 2 with the abundance of tackles he was making and have a nose for the football. And all of a sudden, it unraveled in this game.
Because everybody played well. That's the problem with him.
Yeah.
If the defensive line dominates, well, guess what? He's going to play well because they're eating up blocks, and all he got to do is run to the ball.
Yep.
And today I seen them do the same. Listen, they did the same thing. The defensive line wasn't as dominant today, but I seen them eating up blocks, and I seen them have plenty of opportunities to make tackles. He overruns plays. He underruns plays. He misses tackles over and over again. And I'm telling you, most of these tackles that he's missing, he is scot-free. All he's got to do is get to the ball inside out and make the tackle, and he's missing tackles.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take away a game ball from these players today.
Take away a game
That's
ball.
what they deserve. Somebody needs to get a takeaway. You know what I'm saying? When we come back, we'll wrap things up here on the betPARX post-game show presented by Lehocky. Don't forget about the incredible beer garden here at Parx Casino. Enjoy a fine pint for yourself at the Parx Beer Garden.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Lehocky, we're neither a pawn nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Lehocky from Parx Casino in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. An embarrassing 33-16 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which quarterback Jalen Hurts, who was supposed to be better against the blitz, especially against Todd Bowles, had the opportunity to prove that today. We did not see that, especially in the late goings of this game, where they really took over as a defense. I mean, throughout, it looked like they were rolling this Eagles offensive line, unfortunately, and then the Eagles offensive line got injured as well, and that did not help matters in this game. When you look at this game today, gentlemen, they got the week off with the bye, and then they got a 1 o'clock kickoff coming up against the Cleveland Browns. Between now and then, who's the person you need to see make an about face to help turn this team around?
Ooh. Well, I think Jalen has got to get better. He's got to get better in his decision-making. It's got to be faster and more decisive. But I'd be remiss if I just said him. Mm-hmm. I think the coaching staff needs to get better. And the players, each and every one of them has got to take a look in the mirror and ask themselves, what kind of team do we want to have? Deacon, I almost get this sense, I almost get this feeling that the defense played so well last week, they kind of exhaled this week and just expected, because Tampa played so bad last week, that Tampa Bay was going to show up the same way this week. And my thing is, there's nothing worse than a team coming off a bad loss. To my point, mm-hmm. The Eagles came off that Falcons loss. Mm-hmm. They were breathing fire last week. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay came off of that loss last week. They were breathing fire today. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles never matched that fire. You have to match the intensity from week to week. And that's one of the things, especially with a young team, especially I'm talking on the defensive side of the ball, they've got to learn how to play that way. I said it last week in the postgame. It's great that both Davis and Carter played the way that they played last week and the way that the linebackers played. But if you don't follow up last week with a similar type of performance, then last week kind of goes out the window. It doesn't mean anything. So, listen, they're sitting at 2-2. They got 2 weeks to get healthy. The coaches have got to make some decisions as far as, what their identity is going to be. How are you going to adjust what you're doing offensively? And how are you going to adjust what you're going to do, on the defensive side of the ball? And most importantly, what is the message that Nick Sirianni is going to have for this football team over the next 2 weeks? He better not walk in there with the same old, because this could quickly turn into one of those situations where the players are like, they stick their fingers in their ear, blah, 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 I hear you, but I don't hear you type of thing. Mm-hmm. He better have something meaningful and something impactful to impart upon this team so that they can come back with the right mindset in week 6. Because, listen, I think I heard you guys say that Deshaun Watson got carted off today. So he's going to be hurt by the time we get to Cleveland.
That was Christian Watson.
Oh, Christian Watson.
Yeah.
My bad. But even Deshaun Watson hasn't been what he's been, since he left Houston. So it's going to be an opportunity. But if you think that defense ain't going to be drooling on their shirts, looking at what Tampa Bay did to them this week, and Schwartz being the defensive coordinator, trying to put that team in a position to embarrass this football team, they better be ready. They better not just be going on vacation somewhere and sipping Mai Tais on the beach some damn where. They better really be thinking about how they're going to approach the rest of the season starting in week 6.
Let me real quick on that word approach. Seth, here's what really bothers me. And look, it was another turnover for Jalen Hurts today. He almost had 2 with the interception. Defense played terrible as a whole, especially the way they started out this game. But one of the things that Nick Sirianni was supposed to be so good at, and this has nothing to do with necessarily the game plan, it just comes to the right mindset your team is supposed to have from a Nick Sirianni team, whatever that means now. But you're talking about 2 seasons in a row. You start out 10-1. That's being prepared every single week over those 22 games. Where was that today? They were so blown off the ball on both sides of the football, both defensively and offensively. And if you're Nick Sirianni, one of the things that you're supposed to take pride in is having your team ready to play. It didn't look like your training staff had them ready to play. They weren't ready to handle that humidity. And again, I go back to the early goings of this game, not as the game dragged on. I look at the way the defense, the execution was not there. Again, with the missed tackles. I look at offensively. You're looking at 3 and out after 3 and out. You're looking at a missed throw. You're looking at a drop. You're looking at a bad read. You're talking about a bad sack. This is all in the early goings of this game. That is a team that the players are not prepared by the coaching staff in order to go out there and put their best foot forward. You did not see that really throughout the game. Briefly, you saw a big run by Saquon Barkley, and he, again, I thought was going to be the spark to ignite a huge flame for this Eagles team. That was later nullified as the game went on. So for me, if I had to talk about a buzzword for this game, it was a lack of preparation thanks to the coaching staff.
Listen, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I'm going to say this about Jalen. Sure, he has to make some better decisions, but I think that the coaching staff has got to make the game easier for him, D. Gunn. Because if you look at the majority of his turnovers come under pressure situations, which means that the opposing defenses are forcing these turnovers, okay? They're forcing him. He's throwing passes under duress, and he's losing fumbles because he's trying to get out of the pocket or the pocket is collapsing on him, okay? They've got to simplify this thing, and they got to make the game easier for him. Baker got sacked 12 times in the first 3 games, had a horrible game last week. Mike Evans, I think, caught 2 balls the entire game last week. What did the coaching staff do? They simplified it. They said, we're going to come out today. We're going to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands because they're going to play a lot of zone. They like to play their corners off. So we're going to come out and we're going to simplify the game. We're going to take what the defense is giving us, and we're going to methodically move the ball down the field, and we're going to score. We're going to try to score every single possession. I just believe that that's the way that the Eagles need to approach this. They need to stop trying to force the ball down the field, stop trying to make explosive plays, and they need to put Jalen in a situation where he can get the ball out of his hands, get the ball to his playmakers, and let them do what they need to do instead of trying to make the big play and trying to force the ball down the field and rely on your running back, to make big plays. Saquon rips off another 50-something, 60-yarder today. It's there. But you got to put your players in position to be able to do that instead of trying to force the issue. Simplify the game. Allow him to get his confidence back up before you start playing or creating game plans that requires him to do big things down the field. Simplify it. Take the mistakes out of the equation by taking the 5, 4, 6-yard passes, when you want to throw the ball. Simplify the game by turning around and handing the ball to your $13 million running back that's so explosive that anytime that he touches it, he can take it to the house. Rely on that. Rely upon that. And I get it. You're paying this guy $51 million a year. I get it. I hear what everybody's saying. We're not paying him that kind of money, D. Gunn, to be a game manager. But when things aren't going right, you have to make an adjustment. And in my opinion, that's the adjustment that they need to make. They need to simplify things and give him an easy game to work through.
I think if Jalen had the game plan that Baker Mayfield had today, this game would have been much more competitive.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple. Dink and dunk, 1, 2, 3, throw. And even when his star receivers come back, utilize that aspect of what Baker did today because you're giving your premier wideouts a better opportunity to be home run hitters in the middle part and later in the game because these guys playing in the secondary, they're going to have to start cheating up because you're dumping it off to Saquon, you're dumping it off to Gainwell, hitch pass here to AJ, hitch pass here to Devontae, and let them work the field. 5, 6, 8, 12 yards. All of a sudden, you pump that ball one time. Look how many times Baker pumped the ball and hit a shot down the middle of the field because it froze the secondary. Why can't Jalen have the same kind of game plan? I think the numbers would be a much more effective if they had that kind of game plan for him.
And for example, if you look at the game today, every time the Eagles cornerbacks played off the ball 8 to 10 yards, Baker took what was there.
Boom.
The minute that they got up in press, they went deep one time on Quinyon Mitchell, and they went deep on a fade route to Slay on the sideline that he played. So they're looking at the same thing. Their mindset is the same. Oh, if you're going to give me 5 to 8 yards, I'm going to take it all day long. If you're not going, if you're going to get up and press, well, now I'm going to put my wide receiver in a position where we can hit the big play on.
Not only that, but cornerbacks are greedy also. You start hitting them underneath enough, they start trying to time those routes now. They see certain routes X amount of times. They're going to try to time it to pick it off. All you got to do is have that receiver up and go, stick his foot in the ground, let him go. it's lights out. It's lights out.
I'm gonna pose this last question to you guys like this because I think it's the best way to do it. In 2 days, I think we're all going to look back. I mean, we're going to be looking back on this game for 2 weeks, but just in 2 days, is there a specific play or player in general, maybe even a coach, that you just shake your head at? A specific thing that happened in this game that makes you look at either Jalen, maybe Jalen Carter, Vic Fangio, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman. Is there a thing that maybe in 2 days you're going to look back on this game and go, damn, I still can't believe that? Is there a specific thing in this game that you look at and go, if I could almost redo that one, what would you do?
I'm going to give you two. I can't believe that Vic took so long to get them corners up instead of playing them so far off the ball.
Yeah.
The other thing is we saw a little bit of reversion today to something that a lot of people didn't really pay attention to, okay? Jalen Hurts has been really good against the blitz through the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Not so much today. Did y'all see that bubble screen that they threw today?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Now, that was their remedy for the blitz last year. Now, you think that, we talked about it in the pregame. How much, should Nick Sirianni be calling plays? Should he be calling plays? Do he have the right to be calling plays? I hadn't seen that bubble screen that often through the first 3 weeks. Potentially, that might have been a Nick Sirianni call right there and not so much a Kellen Moore call.
Oof. What was it? Every once in a while? Is that what he said? Here and there.
Here and there.
I'm going to call
I'm not
a play.
even getting into percentages, but here and there.
No, but here and there,
Yeah.
All right, Gunner. Who are you going to be shaking your head at in 2 days? Still reliving the moment from this game.
I'm going to have to say Kellen Moore because of the play calling. Even when they got down 7-0, I didn't like how they responded. When they were down 14-0, I didn't like how they responded even more so with the play calling. So I'm going to say Kellen Moore / Nick Sirianni. You got 2 pretty good offensive minds, or so we thought. Now, you put the meeting of those minds together, you've got to come up with a much better game plan, especially when you get your 2 elite receivers back. Do not come out of the gate after this by playing Cleveland the way you played Tampa today, because Cleveland's got some dogs on that defense. They will challenge your wide receivers. They've got guys that can get to the quarterback in one-on-one situations. Do not come out with the same type of game plan offensively that you played today.
The guy I'm going to be looking at, and look, we've talked a lot about Jalen Hurts versus Todd Bowles. The Kellen Moore guru, I mean, we talked a lot about Vic Fangio and the guru he's supposed to be defensively. Kellen Moore, your offense comes out here, and let's understand. I acknowledge A.J. Brown's not here. I acknowledge Devontae Smith's not here. Dallas got Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and to at least start the game, you got the Stoutland University squad still out there, minus Lane Johnson, granted. But you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You can't get a first down against Todd Bowles, and you set the table during the week saying you understand that Todd Bowles always gives you different looks. Well, where's the experience there? That's what I thought we were gaining.
The counter.
The counter to that. I thought the Eagles were gaining that in the offseason, that experience. I thought they were gaining that because they didn't have that with Shane Steichen when he was first calling plays here. They sure as heck didn't have that with Brian Johnson. So what was the difference? I saw nothing schemed up, worked up by Kellen Moore when you're talking about the first 15 scripted plays that looked like it was standing out and saying, oh, look at me, I'm a difference maker when it comes to being a play caller. I didn't see that from him. That's the thing I'm going to be shaking my head about really probably for 2 weeks. It just won't be the 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Hey, make sure you smash that like button on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. For those watching us on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel, thank you. For those watching us on 6ABC, thank you. Make sure you click like and subscribe, and also hit that notification button as well for the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. I'm Marc Farzetta. This is Seth Joyner right here, Eagles Hall of Famer and veteran Eagles reporter Derrick Gunn. We'll be back with you guys in 2 weeks when the Eagles kick off at 1 o'clock against the Cleveland Browns. Thanks for watching.